Yes, let's do it. We are live, and this is Impromptu. I am Tony Sawyer, and this is my co-host Norman Armstrong, and we're here to have another powerful, impactful talk about our own self-discovery and how we move forward in our spiritual journey. So, hey, he was carrying on a good conversation before you guys got here, so we're gonna just jump right on in. Why don't you go ahead with what you were telling me?
All right. Well, once again, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you guys for joining in and connecting with us. And I was sharing with my spiritual mother, co-pastor Sawyer, concerning a quote that I heard while I was working out from one by the name of Lisa Nichols, and it really caught my attention. And what she said, your life is a physical manifestation of the conversation going on in your head. And
Yes.
so I thought that was very good because of some things that we had already stated on this particular platform concerning our mind and our conscious and subconscious. And when she said that, of course, I had to stop what I was doing and rewind it to hear it again
Mhm,
because
mhm.
that is so true. And I thought about what we discussed a couple of weeks ago concerning the woman that had the issue of blood. And we talked about the conversation that she had with herself, that she said, if I could just touch the
Yeah.
hem of his garment, I would be made whole. And so I immediately thought about that because, again, as we talked about before, she was not in the presence of Jesus at that time. He did not call her out like we are used to in worship services, a prophet or a man or woman of God who has that ability will often call people out and tell them what thus saith the Lord. But she
Mhm.
didn't have that encounter. She had a conversation with her own self in her mind because of what she had heard, and said if she could just touch the hem of her garment, she would be made whole. And of course, we know the story. She pressed in behind the multitude. She touched them. Jesus asked the question, who touched me? And of course, the disciples made the statement, with Jesus, look, there's a multitude of people around. So obviously many are touching you, but there was a special touch. And it was based off of the conversation that she had with herself. And when he looked around and saw the woman and realized that it was her, he said, your faith. So again, your faith, it wasn't him. It was based off of what she said to herself. And so I thought about that because life is pretty much a manifestation of the things that you think about or the conversation that you have with your own self. And
It
so we're
is.
talking a lot about that.
Yeah, and actually, when the internal dialogue is, and I have to let me back up for a moment. Yesterday, we talked with Lisa Natoli, who is the wife of the young man who put on the conference that we just finished doing on this weekend past. And she made a statement to me that I'm not going to disclose. I'm still marinating in it. It was such a powerful statement that it went to the very core of my being and pastor's being as well. It went directly to the core. And whenever that happens, it when something is said that's that impactful, it doesn't excite you, but what it does instead is it causes something inside of you to just go limp. And when it does, it's like because you're in that state of contemplation. They've made you think different. They've
Mhm.
made you see different. And so our prayer, my prayer, my husband's prayer has been that we'll be able to help people to see differently, because until they see what it is that they need to see, they are not going to be free. Uh,
Exactly.
your only freedom comes from your seeing, your clarity. And so the woman with the issue of blood, she didn't have teachings about how she should speak faith. She didn't have teachings about speaking things into existence. She said that from her heart center.
Mhm.
She said, I think if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I believe I could be made whole. So
Mhm.
she came up with her own point of contact, and she made a connection with God that nobody gave her.
Exactly.
Nobody told her this is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
She made her own connection with God through her internal dialogue, and it was never spoken with the mouth.
Exactly.
And so our internal dialogue, the conversation in our minds, is what causes all of our life outcome. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what a lot of people don't quite understand. And here comes my husband. They don't quite understand that internal dialogue is creating already. Some of it is things I don't want because I'm entertaining a dialogue in my mind that is not going, not, it is not, it's more working against me than it is for me.
Exactly.
The conversation in my mind, the battle in between my ears. And for those of us who still believe that they live in the land of the devil, that's where the devil fights you, is in your head.
Exactly.
So,
And that's a true statement. The battlefield is in your mind. That's where he dwells. So you create your adversary. You're creating your heaven or your hell.
well,
And
hello there, young man.
Yeah,
it
hey,
is
Ray,
so.
how you guys?
Hey there. I love that
Okay.
hat.
Oh yeah, I was just working on it a little bit there.
That's the good humor ice cream man.
I know you got to mail me one.
I had to get your hat size,
Now,
get your head size.
straighten it up now. Don't be
I
crooked.
don't know how
Don't be crooked.
is it crooked or straight or what? I
Yeah,
don't know.
whatever. Yeah, you good.
I can't see. It's all kinds of ways.
Here, this is gonna
Yeah,
help if I do
that's good.
this. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were just talking about the internal dialogue again, and how that battle is in between our ears. Most of us don't know how to battle. Well, I'm gonna put it on the level of religion, because this is where a lot of our people are battling the devil. Most of us don't know how to battle the devil, or
Mhm.
most of us don't know how to battle what is opposing us. I'll say it like that, because I don't actually believe, because I don't live where the devil is anymore. I don't actually believe I'm battling the devil, but I know that I am dealing with a mind that has been conditioned by life experiences, and it is often believing and predicting things that are not going according to what I want. And so that battle that mind has to be questioned. Most of us don't even question that mind, but
Mhm.
we want to use it to manifest, but we don't question it when it's doing things to push away our good. Our good is not being withheld. It is never withheld. It is already here, but it's veiled by our beliefs that it is not here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
And see, when we operate in duality, again, because see, I don't believe that my greatest enemy is the devil either. I believe I myself is my greatest enemy. I believe that a lot of things that I ascribed back in the day, that was the enemy. Pray,
Yeah.
and you asking people, please pray for me because the devil is on my back.
Yeah.
Not a real true statement, a religious statement, but not a true statement.
But
But I realize,
and I don't want to cut you off, but you and I, we have been within the confines of that, where we believed in casting out devils. We believed that a devil could possess a person. And I'm not coming against it. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is that our minds are so brilliant. We know a couple. This is the honest truth. We know a couple who wanted a child so bad. They believed it. They spoke it into existence. They walked in faith, and she actually had all the symptoms, but no baby.
mhm,
So
mhm.
our minds are just that powerful. Just that powerful. So if I believe I'm possessed with the devil, can my mind create that? Yes.
Mhm.
If I believe there's a devil shaking my bed, will my mind create that? Yes.
Mhm.
So we don't, there's a lot that we don't understand. There's a lot that we don't know. And there's so many underlying programs running inside of us from our life experiences, till we really don't know what's motivating us, what's pushing us. And so questioning the mind has to be something that we practice. is the thought that I'm thinking right now, is it absolutely true?
Mm-hmm.
And if it isn't true, do I have to believe it?
Mm-hmm.
So that I just wanted to put that little bit in there. Then you can just
I,
go ahead.
I love what you said about questioning your mind, or another way, questioning the voice in your mind. Because again, we started this by stating that life is a physical manifestation of the
Mhm.
conversation in your mind. And so you oftentimes have to ask yourself, who's talking to me? So, going back to something we was talking about last week about returning home, or last night, of course, shooting through from the hip, it dawned on me concerning God once again being a pure intellect or pure conscience, and in sharing it, I realized that that means to be pure means is unpolluted, is uncontaminated, and it's also is uninfluenced. There's no influence. So I
Yes.
thought about that thing. There was no one there to influence the mind of God. And so we understand that everything that was created and all the things that we see as manifestations came from the mind of God. So if we look at that thing as concerning pure consciousness and pure intellect, even in Hebrews chapter 6, he said, when he cannot swear unto any other, he had to swear unto himself, because
Yes.
there was no one greater to
Yes.
influence.
There's no one greater.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
so I think about in life, there we have many voices, and we have to question the voices because there's been so much influence on our mind. But if
Yes.
we can ever get to that place where, like God himself, nothing influences mine, and everything that the conversation that he was having with himself, and he said, let there be
Mhm.
light, there was light, let there be trees, there were trees, let there be a moon and stars there. And this was a conversation he was having with himself. And
Yes.
so
Yes. Yes.
now I thought about what he said, and he looked at everything that he
Mhm.
created from his mind and
Mhm.
said it was good.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
thought about that. That thing hit me last night, because nothing, when you're not influenced in your mind, all that you will produce will be good. It will be beneficial.
Right.
And I thought about that thing. And then, of course, with man, he said it was very good. But all
Mhm.
came out of his pure mindset. No influence from, like, we have all kind of influences. We have the TV. We have people talking to us. Of course, in school, we are being taught and trained and so forth. So
Mhm.
we do. We
Yes.
have all these different forms. But when I thought about God
Mhm.
and our origin, when we came out of the mind of God, he had no influence on his mind.
Let me say what you just said is so true. And a lot of us think that we're making our own decisions, but
Mhm.
we're not, because I just listened to a young man this morning. His name was Bayo. Gosh, I can't remember his last name, but he's Nigerian and he lives in India. But he was speaking and he said everything has been colonized to be able to push us like a herd in the direction that it wants us to go. And we're
Mhm.
talking about this system of colonization that we have in our world. So there are commercials there, like you said, the bombardment of all this stimulation and stimulus that causes us to want things that we normally would not have wanted. Because I
Mhm.
didn't know about it, I wouldn't have wanted it. But because, and that's why the Bible talks about the lust of the eye, because the lust of the eye and the pride of life is how they get us.
Right. And
That's
the
how
lust
they
of the
get us.
flesh.
But
Yep.
he brought out something that was even more uh, in depth than what I've even thought about that kind of control. He said there's algorithms, and I thought about, yeah, that's right. Algorithms on Facebook, they've got an algorithm that picks up all of your or your content, how you search things, what you're attracted to, all of that, and then what you'll see is ads and things pop up because
Mhm.
they are things that you would be interested in. They are keeping records of all of that. And so then they build what they call an algorithm. That an algorithm, they're figuring out ways to continue to give you stimulus to get you to do what they want you to do, what to buy what they want you to buy, to think how they want you to think. So those algorithms are created, and even in our food, what if there's algorithms created in our food that's making us crave more of that same thing. That's not
Exactly.
that's not good for us. And we think we are choosing, but in actuality, we're being herded.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about this is an actual thing.
Well, I mean, even if you talk about conspiracy theories, of course, they've used this before. Again, I'm a marketing major. All right. One of the first things that we learned concerning advertisement was subliminal messages. And so, going back to the beginning when movie theaters began and so forth, they gave you subliminal messages within the commercials to make you crave to go get the popcorn and get the Coca-Cola and so forth and so on. So you didn't even want it at first. You wasn't even thinking about it.
You could have already had a big meal before going to the theater, and you still buying that popcorn.
If anyone is like us, we have our meal before we go to the movie theater because we don't want to spend that money on that popcorn, but we still go. And guess what? Soon as the commercial come up, the Coca-Cola signs and the popcorn and all of that, we go right. You want something and me, you want something, and we go down there and get it. But going back to algorithms,
that's being done all the time.
Yeah, all the time. And so going back to the algorithms, that's something that they do on YouTube as well. And I noticed that that if I'm looking at motivational speakers all the time, soon as I go on YouTube, for me, all of those will pop up no matter when was the last time I watched it, whether if it was physical fitness.
They're watching us.
And that's what that is awesome. So now if we think about that, let's think about our life. You see what I'm saying? There are certain things that we don't even realize that we have created for ourselves that we're consistently attracted to.
That's right.
I just thought about something. Someone you were here to say concerning relationships. Say if you was in a relationship, you had a bad relationship. Okay, that relationship is over. Then you go into another relationship, and then the statement is made. Why are you constantly going after the same exact type person?
And the reason is, and there's so many people doing that. And they're stuck in a cycle of reincarnation and don't even realize it because they're repeating it over and over again. And so they don't realize that what's causing them to continue in that cycle I'm tongue-tied today, is not questioning the mind, not questioning the thoughts that I'm having. The first question a person should have in new relationship is, why am I attracted to this person? We get caught up with all of the pheromones and the passions and the vibrations and all of that, and we don't stop to think, okay, what attracted me to this person beyond the sight? What was it? And then what is it that I feel connection with this? Why do I feel the connection with this person? So if people would do that, if we would take the time to just question our thoughts, and the main question is, what I'm thinking about this person, is it true?
Exactly.
What I'm feeling about myself when I'm with this person, is it true?
Exactly.
So this is where we have our downfalls. We don't question the mind. Nope. And so when the mind is unquestioned, it will lead you around like you got a ring in your nose. And the mind is being led by all of these different algorithms
that we created through years of influence. And that's what many of us don't understand. And I thought about that on last night after the broadcast, when the statement was made through Isaiah, his thoughts are not our thoughts, nor his ways our ways. And that thing really hit me because that is such a true fact, because again, he's pure intellect. He's pure consciousness where it has not been influenced by anyone else. And so I began to meditate on that for a while and think about it.
And we started out that way. We started out that way with the exception of, there are, and some people don't believe in reincarnation, but I know that reincarnation is possibly true, because there are fears and physical problems that we have that we can't determine where it started from. We don't have any point of reference for those things to be here. So it's like a residue that was carried over from a previous lifetime. And now I don't know why I still have headaches. Maybe it was because somebody killed me, knocking me in the head. I don't know. In a previous lifetime. But, that's the kind of thing. And the doctors can't find the origin. And they don't know it's because it's a residue from a previous lifetime carried over in our psyche.
Mm-hmm. And that's the journey that I took last night. Because like I said, when I shared that on the broadcast, that was not in my notes. I wasn't even thinking about that, but it, of course, I shoot from the hip, and it was like a fresh download. And so afterwards, I was, did that really come out of me? And so I began to meditate, and I started asking, if God is pure consciousness and there was no one that shaped or influenced his mind, I began to ask myself those questions last night.
Yeah, because there's no other mind to shape
where
it.
do these feelings that I have come from? Why do I think this way? Why I like this and dislike that? And so I began to ask myself, where did that come from?
Well, you remember the scripture that says we were born in sin and shapen in iniquity. And I looked up the word for iniquity, and it doesn't mean what we think. It has nothing to do with sinful deeds and all of that. And sin doesn't mean what we think it means either, because it didn't say sins, which means deeds that I do that we consider to be wrong. But sin is misidentification of who I am. And so those iniquities are inconsistencies. We were shaped in misidentifications. We were shaped in inconsistencies. And that caused our thinking. And when we say we were shaped, I want to tweak that just a little bit, because it wasn't the we that we truly are that was actually shaped, but it was the mind itself that we believe we are. We believe that we're that thinker, and we're not that thinker, but we believe we're that thinker, and it was shaped. And that's what we mean when my husband and I say conditioned. It was conditioned, like you condition an air. When you got air in your house, you press the button and you condition your air to be suitable to you. Your mind has been conditioned by everything you've experienced and encountered since the day you were born. And not only that, since the day you were conceived.
Exactly. And I thought about that. And it's funny you say that, because last night I thought about that. I thought about if a child was born and if they was put in a room with no outside influences whatsoever. Now, of course, we know through studies, it's kind of hard for a child to continue to exist or to thrive without the human touch. That experiment has been done where babies were born. They had some baby that was in a room that was never touched by human hands, and many of them died off. And then the other children who was picked up and handled whatever,
they were nurtured.
Exactly. Shows that we are created to be interdependent, not just independent, but we actually need one another, because
of in the conference that we just did, my husband and I, in our session, I talked about the reciprocal gaze. And when a baby is born and the caregiver, whether it be its mother or whoever, when that child is being held and looking into the eyes of that caregiver, that child is then being mirrored. They're seeing themselves in the eye of that caregiver. And there are what they call medically, they call them mirror neurons in our brains. And the children who have had that kind of gaze to take place, they come out being more tender, having more they're having more empathy. I can't even talk today. Empathy for people. They even have more of an acclamation to go toward God. So all of that you just said is so true. And it's even more than the touch. It's the eye, it's the gaze, it's the touch, it's the whole experience.
Exactly. Because in taking that journey, I thought, like I said, I'm a thinker. So, and I thought about something when
you're a contemplator.
Yeah, I'm a contemplator.
Yeah. The mind is a thinker, but you're a contemplator.
And so I went back again to when the voice of God was coming in the garden of cool of the day, and he was looking for Adam and Eve. And of course, they mentioned that they hid themselves because they realized they was naked. And he asked that question: who told you you were naked? Who told you? And of course, because of the scripture, we don't even see where someone told them. We can't even say the serpent, because the serpent never said anything about being naked.
Thank you.
And so to me, I think we've done that particular account a great injustice. And what I mean by that,
yes,
and this is me, and again, I'm out there. I don't honestly think it was how we teach it. The tree of good and evil, and the tree of life and death. All right. I don't think it was actually that type of, I can't even explain it. What we think or what we teach is it's a tree and a fruit and they ate it. I think it's much more than that. I really believe it's much more than that because of the conversation that was being held.
Yes.
And even when the enemy was talking to Eve and mentioned that if the Lord knew if you ate of this tree, you would become like him. Well, first of all, you was already like him.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, he did not lie. He did not honestly tell a lie.
Right.
So it's much more deeper than that. Because again,
how deep is it?
And that's the thing, and that's the journey we're taking. How deep is it? And so again, how
deep does this rabbit hole go?
Even Jesus makes the statement. He tells the disciples, to know and not to do is sin. Now that you know, and that's how it becomes sin. Because going back to what you was talking about with sin, of course, we know the etymology of the word sin is goes back to during the time of archery and stuff. It just simply means missing the mark. And like you said, misidentity. You're mishitting or walking in your true identity. The word iniquity also means to bend a certain way.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So that means when the situations are lined up, I'm liable to bend that direction versus another direction.
Yes.
And it deals with the influences that we've had in our life. And so going back to that algorithm again, and you could play with this on YouTube. Of course, I'm not a great social media guy, but I began to notice some things.
Mm-hmm.
Again, on YouTube, whatever you keep watching over and over and over again, and you can close it out, whatever, when you open up and it's a whole new day, there's fresh stuff that pops up that's related to what you've been watching all before.
Right.
So now, in order for that to stop, I have to change what I've been watching.
Yes.
And so once I make that conversion, don't get me happy. I'm feeling it right now. When I make that conversion and I change, then guess what's going to happen? My algorithm is going to line up to the change that I've put myself in, or once again presented to myself. So again, I thought about when you said that. So if you want to see different manifestations in your life, going back to how we started, my life is a physical manifestation of the conversation I'm having in my mind. So it's not so much me, someone exposing me to something, it's me exposing myself. And so when I expose myself, I'm going to keep bending in that direction.
Exactly.
So now we have to ask ourselves the question, who's shaping our mind?
Now look, I want to touch this because what you just said brought this to my attention. In book of James, I think it's the first chapter, it says here in the 21st verse, and I'm going to read that. Let's see, do I want to read that? Okay. Yeah, 21 down through 24. And this is interesting because we hear people talking all the time about getting the word in you. I'm going to live by the word, nothing but the word, and all of this. And I'm a doer of the word, all of this kind of stuff. And I'm speaking Christian language for those of you who may not be in church. So just bear with me. But this verse says this: wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. 22nd verse says this: but be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own self. Now listen, he said, be doers, not hearers. And if I'm only hearing, I'm deceiving my own self. Okay. That's the first thing. And the next verse says this: for if any man be a hearer of the word and not a doer, now look how he does a comparison to this. He is like a man beholding his natural face in a glass, for he behold himself and goes his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. Right. That has nothing to do with trying to live out of scripture. Nope. That has all to do with me remembering who I am. And if I'm not remembering who I am, it's like a man who looks in a glass and walks away and doesn't remember what he looks like. That's how he described a doer. A person who doesn't forget who they are.
Exactly.
Has nothing to do with what we've been teaching in our Christian churches at all.
Nope.
So if I don't know who I am, how am I even going to be that doer when I don't even know from Jump Street who I am? I'm still trying to live out an image of something that somebody put in me, or somebody I looked at that I admire, or somebody that I looked at that I don't want to be like. I'm still trying to find my way. I don't know who I am.
Exactly.
So that's where meditation, contemplation, like what you're saying, contemplation, that is very beneficial, because if we don't do that, if we don't get beyond, I'm trying to get ahead, if we don't get beyond that, then we will never see who we are. And we'll never be a doer based on what he said right here. Because the doer is the one who doesn't forget who he is.
Exactly.
And remember, Jesus came out of the wilderness. He came out in power because he had settled his identity.
Exactly. And so going back to the statement by Socrates, to find oneself, you must think for yourself. And so if you're not taking that time to and I can even use the word meditate or to contemplate, you're leaving it up. And let me help all the preachers out.
Go ahead.
We must understand again, because y'all have dealt with this, and I've dealt with it. Okay, we get up there and we present, quote unquote, the gospel. All right, much more. I would just say insight, wisdom, and revelation.
Yeah.
But people actually think through that we can control and manipulate people.
Yeah.
That's partly true. We can't make anybody do anything. So what we have ended up doing is, and going back to, and I don't want to offend nobody, but I'm just going to say how I'm feeling it right now or seeing it. We have imprisoned the people, and we have made them lazy thinkers or lazy contemplate. They don't think for themselves. They want somebody else to think for them.
And so we've done that because we want to keep them dependent on us, because they're our lifeline. They're our bread and butter. And so we have used that. And those of us who have dared to leave that alone, we have stopped protecting our interests. We are telling people the truth.
Exactly. And so what ended up happening is, if I'm the one that has to think for you, then you just made yourself a slave. That means I could easily manipulate and control you. And so now, even as I'm sharing this, now I see why so many preachers that get caught in scandals, who are prospering and celebrity preachers and mega preachers, that the scandals never destroy them.
That's right. They
still yet at that place, and the people still coming, they're still attracted, because they have now became the thinker for them.
Yes. Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
And yes, it's that. There's so many factors, but that it is also the church has become an entertainment center.
Exactly.
So I'm grateful for the pandemic in one sense because it has shut down a lot of these entertainment centers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were no longer able to put on the same show that they've been putting on all this time. And so what attracted people to them and kept people with them was their brand of entertainment. And
Exactly.
they enjoyed it. They
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it, or they felt like it was. And then too, there's a flip side. The church has been a security blanket for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They have not learned to think for themselves. They have not learned to stand up and be accountable or be responsible for their own actions. So the church has been there when I fail. The
Mm-hmm.
church has been there to kind of undergird me, to soothe me through my own failures.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've gotten really, really dependent on the church because of that. I'm having a hard time, so I'm going to get my shout on. I'm having a hard time, so I need to go get in the presence of God. So the church has been that. It's like a substitute. But when the church is shut down, where do you go?
That's
Where
it.
do you go?
That's it.
What are you going to do then? What if, and God forbid this ever happens, what if it happens to the point where there can be no more live streams? What then?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
What then? So our foundation has to be more stable than what it has been. It has to be more stability. It has to be more substance to us than it has been in the past. We have been so shallow as people.
Mm-hmm.
I say people of God in our circles. We have been very, very shallow. It's all been about how can I get ahead? How can I get some more money? How can I get the right car? How can I get the right job? How can I get the right husband? How can I get a bigger house? How can I live in a better neighborhood? How can I have the best friends? How can I become more popular? How can I be known all over the world? How can I? It's all about that.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us have really discovered, I'll say the majority of us have not discovered who we are.
Exactly. And I have to say that as well. I am very, and I know this is strange for a lot of the people that's watching us, for us to make the statement concerning the pandemic. Because as you was talking, I'm thinking about all last year. Yes, there's a part of me in duality that, man, I'm missing everybody. I want to get back to the church. But that's how I been doing it so long. That's just me. All right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But in the midst of the pandemic, I have to be honest. I have really discovered who I am, separate and apart from the people who I pastor, separate and apart from not just the people at the church, but people that I would normally connect with and talk to on a regular basis. I found me. And I didn't realize it until I shared last week that when I woke up one morning and I heard, who am I without Bo? Who am I without Gwen?
Yes.
Who am I without the car? Who am I without the house?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest, through it all, I've dealt with less stress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I've dealt with less stress. And so as being a pastor, of course, I have groups that understand, okay, we're in the midst of the pandemic. We don't need to be trying to come together. The numbers are increasing. Let's be safe. It's better to be safe than to be sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Very understandable. Then there's another one, man, we need to come back and we need to do X, Y, and Z and so forth and so on. So that's showing me that you are not comfortable within who you are, separate and apart from everybody else. It's like I have a need, I have an addiction. If I don't do this, I'm not going to live. I'm going to fall. I'm going to end up in a bad lifestyle or whatever. And that's not true.
You know, back in the day, they had church so often and so long. That's the only way they could keep you saved. You stayed in church all day long.
All day.
But, you know, I've been thinking about what you just said was in the book of Psalms, the word Selah is mentioned 71 times. Selah is a pause, but it's more than a pause. It's like what we've had to do with the pandemic. We shut down. We had to stop, and only God can make the whole world stop at one time. Only God can make the whole world stop. It was a divine Selah, and it has been a divine Selah because the pandemic, while some people look at it as a monster, the pandemic has really been a blessing to a lot of people. And so it's doing its job. I heard one man say it's prophetess Corona. Prophetess Corona, she has done her job. She's taken out those that need to go. And then she has brought some into the limelight that would never been known. So there's so many positives inside of it. But that word Selah means it's time to slow down. Slow down. And us trying to go back to the way things were isn't what this is purposed for. It's purposed for us to find, like you said, you have really come into your understanding of who you are during this time. It was for us to slow down enough to be able to go inward and do that investigating, that inquiry. And a lot of us are about to miss that opportunity, because when they open up again, you're not going to have that.
Nope. And it's going to be sad because and we're going to go back to the same. I'm going to say that way, because a lot of people are going to try, but they're going to discover that they won't be able to do it, because
it won't be the same.
Exactly. Everything around in our world and in our culture have shifted.
Yes.
So now, if you don't shift, then you're going to end up being stuck in a vicious cycle where it's going to keep you frustrated, aggravated, angry at the world, moody, and very emotional, because you're trying to get back to a norm that, in all actuality, and I have to say it this way, God himself eradicated.
And if you notice, the getting back to, most of it is for recreation.
Yes.
Most of it is for recreation.
Yep.
Even the churches, it's so I can have fun. I can enjoy my service. It's mostly for recreation. Instead of recreation.
Oh, I love that. Recreation. Yes. And so
no, I'm just listening. Go ahead.
Okay.
We
go ahead.
We have to understand, and going back to, because as you were saying it, and I'm thinking about it, because just today, and it keeps coming up. Just today, and I've been sharing with you guys, because Bishop asked a question on a Sunday, what vein have we been in, and we've been on this vein with favor. I'm telling y'all, and I want everyone to understand, because I want to help somebody. Again, I am a full-time pastor. All right. Again, because I came up under y'all wings, I have to say y'all taught me right. I learned so much from y'all. I was there doing y'all evolutions and conversion and transformation, and it caused me to do the same. So I want to understand it. It's not because I'm a preacher. It's not because of the anointing that I am experiencing more favor in 2020 and in 2021 than I've did running to churches, preaching everywhere, doing revivals, preaching at conferences, and so forth. Ever since I came to understand that I am favor, because I know I'm favor, that favor chases me. And so ever since we've been talking about this, we discovered just today, and yet blessings are consistently coming from unfamiliar places. Places, and there are people that are hearing about this, and they're asking us to share more concerning what we've been talking about concerning this favor and OPT and so forth. I mean, it's following us everywhere we go, till we found out today from a friend of Gwen's. She's part of, I guess it's like a special club for this month. And it's called, I guess it's like a favor club. that John Eckhart have been teaching on favor for the past 30 days.
Okay.
That same thing. And so when she shared that, it shocked her because it's like we are not, no matter what is coming up, it's manifesting around us. So again, going back to what we started with Lisa Nichols, when she made the statement, life itself is a physical manifestation of the conversation that you're having in your mind.
That's it.
So that's been on our mind, favor.
Mm-hmm.
So if I realize
it's like having a new red car, and then everywhere you go, you see a red car just like yours.
Now that's funny because that just happened to me today. I was the only person that had the Sunset Orange 2020 Altima in the area, and no one else had it. Mm-hmm. And on my way coming back from favor, I come at the stoplight, the intersection, and there's a guy that has the exact same car coming from the other way of the interstate. We had the light, and we stopped blowing at one another.
You attracted it. You attracted it. It was in your. Lady Gwen said this on Sunday. It's your vault.
Exactly.
It's in your vault. And so whatever our attention goes to, that's what we see most of. That's what comes up. And it's just like those algorithms. It's like a spiritual algorithm that brings to us whatever we're attracted to or whatever we're interested in.
So based off of what you just said, so it is safe to say that we can create our own world, but it is a result of the conversation going on in our mind. Which means we have to change that conversation.
Yeah, now this is the thing. Most of us aren't aware of the conversation.
Exactly.
So we're having a lot of miscreations.
Oh, Mom, don't say that. Oh, that sounds good. Say that again.
If I'm thinking about something that I don't want to happen, I'm attracting the thing that I don't want to happen. That's a miscreation. You always say we're creating by default.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what we're creating. We're creating, but we don't know what we're creating. It's a miscreation because I've created a lot of things I didn't want to happen and a lot of things I didn't like.
Ooh, Ma, so we create our own monsters then.
Oh yeah.
As you were saying it, I think, and of course you know I'm a movie buff. I thought about Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein. I thought about that.
Okay.
He created a monster, all these different body parts of different individuals, and the very thing that he created killed him.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. The very thing that he created destroyed him.
Okay, let's take it back to the Bible. Remember, you said it last time we were together. Israel wanted a king. God didn't want to give them a king.
Nope.
But they wanted a king. So this thought in their minds, we need a king. We need a king. They didn't question that thought. We need a king. Nobody said, why do we need a king? But they said, we need a king. So, hey, they created this thing. They got a king. And then they were miserable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just like the person who said, I want me a big house. I want me a 3,000 square foot house, 4,000 square foot house. I want me a $500,000 house. And they ain't got enough to pay the taxes every year.
Come on, that's good, Mom. That's good.
You get the house, and what you gonna do with the insurance and the taxes and the upkeep on the thing? How you gonna keep it up?
And so what's created out of that? A miscreation, right?
Miscreation that makes me miserable.
Exactly, because now you added more stress on yourself, want to obtain something that you want to have to continue with energy to try to keep
problems.
Yep.
I won't say the name, but there's some people I know that prayed and asked God to give them a house. They wanted a house. They were living in an apartment, wasn't satisfied, wanted a house. They said, Lord, I want a house. Got a house and can't keep the thing up. Now they're miserable because they can't keep it up. It's falling apart, and they're constantly upset because they can't keep the thing up. Now they're praying, God, don't give me enough money. I don't have enough money. You had enough money before you got the house.
Exactly.
I'm yelling, aren't I? I'm sorry. I'm yelling.
Okay.
I'm on my soapbox because this is what we do in our miscreating. This is what we do.
Bishop ain't got no sense. Bishop ain't got no sense. but that goes back to the rat race again. What did that keep us wanting to obtain more? And guess what? And when we get it, like you said, we still get miserable. What's telling you if I have this, I'm gonna be better than what I was before? You get it? You still miserable.
Yes.
And it's because you don't realize that the one thing that's going to bring you the ultimate joy, because again, joy comes from within and not from without, is when you find you.
Well, you know what? You just said I had in my mind this week before we came together today. I said I'm gonna ask Pastor Norman, where does this joy come from?
From within.
And where do we get our joy in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Is it in all this stuff we get? And I'm not saying don't have stuff. I like nice stuff now. Don't get me wrong. I like nice stuff. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think my taste exceeds my budget. But
I'm that way too.
Yeah, I mean I can go into a store and I guarantee you I'll pick out the most expensive thing in there that I like. If I like it, it's the most expensive thing in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about not having. This is about not being driven by all of these invisible algorithms that are going on. And like you said, thinking for yourself, being free enough to know you're making the choice yourself and nobody's pulling your strings.
See, I realize what I have don't make me. And I have not always been there. And that's why, again, like I said, I've learned so much in the midst of this pandemic. It's funny. On yesterday, I come across my 8th grade teacher. All right. Mm-hmm. She's over here with us and stuff like that. And she started telling everyone, she said, yeah, I used to teach Norman, and I never noticed that she noticed this about me, but this was something that people will always say about me back in the day. Mm-hmm. And even now. And she made a statement. I never knew that she was observing. And she said, Norman used to come to school dressed nice every single day. I mean,
he clothes.
Exactly. I never knew that she noticed that. Never knew that. I love to dress and so forth. Yeah. But it was funny when she said that, and she was telling everybody, and he would come, and the other kids would be wondering where in the world he get that stuff from, and so forth. So again, I was from New Jersey, so most of my brother and I during the summer we'll go to New Jersey during the summer, get all of our stuff, and we'll come back. But the thing that I understand about this, a lot of the things that I had on back in those days was not as expensive as people thought they were.
Yeah, they don't have to be, do they?
You know what I'm saying? There were times where I would wear stuff and people were like, oh my God, I know you paid a whole lot of. Now I let them believe what they want to believe. You didn't know I got it from Walmart. You didn't know I went to the thrift store and got this. So it wasn't the clothes making me, it was me making the clothes.
That's right.
And it was I feel this one. It was what I was wearing and how it was presenting itself was a result of what I was feeling like within myself of who I was.
Yes. Now you brought up another point, because the clothes make you feel a certain way, don't they? Mm-hmm. The clothes make you feel a certain way. The house makes you feel a certain way. The car makes you feel a certain way. All of these things make us feel some kind of way. And what we're saying now is that none of this is. There's no wrong or right or wrong in having or not having. There's no right or wrong. We're not coming against people who want to have. but what we're saying is that feeling some kind of way can be obtained if you don't have the things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you don't feel lesser than. You don't feel inferior. Because when you know who you are, you have that same feeling, even if the thing is delayed.
Exactly.
You have
Exactly.
that same feeling. I want to read something right quick. This is in Colossians, where it says Christ in us, the hope of glory. I
Mhm.
won't read the whole thing, but in the New Living Translation, it says Christ in us. This is the secret. This is the secret. Christ lives in you. This is the secret. And then Galatians 4 says, till Christ is formed in you, or
Mhm.
till Christ is completely and perfectly formed. And then in Colossians, he said, Christ is all and in all. And then in 2 Corinthians 13, he said, examine yourselves, Christ is in you. In Galatians 2:20, it says, I no longer live, Christ lives. And
Mhm.
then in Colossians 3:1, it says, you died and your life is hid in Christ in God. And Ephesians 4:6, it says, it's one God and Father, one source, one place where everything originates, who is over all, through all, and in all. And in Colossians 2:10, it says, you are complete through your union with Christ.
With Christ.
So
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
bottom line. We're complete, and we don't know we're complete because our mind constantly tells us we need something else to make us feel like we're complete.
Yeah. Um, Going back to the question that you was going to ask me, but it just came out about joy. And I want everyone to know this because I'm being very transparent. I want, and especially those that's part of Bowl that I have the honor and the privilege to lead. Um, Number one, I want them to know now they're getting a part of what I experienced with you guys. They're really hearing our because this is what we would do all the time when we come together.
Mhm,
We would
mhm,
just talk about different things like this.
mhm.
But I want them to know that, and again, I'll be 54 this year. All right.
Wow.
I
I'll be
oh,
70. I'll be 73.
she be
He'll be
73 this year.
74 this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but it was in the midst of this pandemic that I realized something. All before the pandemic, I was trying to be happy. I
Mm,
was living a life of happy one moment and not happy the next moment.
yeah. Yeah.
It was in 2020 that I discovered the true essence of joy.
Good. Good.
You know what I'm saying? Because now there was no more me trying to go get. I would tease my kids. They're like, I would call them. They're like, we going to the mall. What y'all going to the mall for? What y'all need to buy clothes? You ain't going anywhere, you know. You can't do much
Right.
anything and stuff like that. So why you wasting money to buy stuff that's going to sit there because we can't go? Everything shut down.
Exactly. Be like
But
the guy. Be like the guy on the commercial who's dressed for his Zoom call
yeah,
and he's undershorts.
I saw that this
All it
morning.
needs is the top. All it,
That is
all it
funny.
needs is the top. The bottom don't matter.
It's funny that you said that because we have a couple in our church who told my wife and I this is about a month ago um, that when we was doing our broadcast, virtual broadcast, of course we was doing it from the house, and we have like our fireplace with a glass that sits right behind us, and no one said nothing. And I want everyone to hear this. It was so funny because while we home, we're not wearing no shoes or no socks. And so we sit up in the high chairs and we teaching this stuff, and they came and said, well, y'all do know that we can see the reflection of your feet.
It was holy ground.
It was only guys that they said, we
It
see
was
y'all
holy
ain't been wearing
ground.
those shoes.
I bet there's a bunch of us that done that.
Yeah,
In fact, I feel better when I take my shoes off when I'm getting ready to do these live streams. When I got
yeah,
my shoes on, I don't feel as free. I have to take my shoes off to do it.
exactly.
It is
Yes.
so. It is so. It is so liberating to be able to just be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you're saying is you're able to just be yourself. It doesn't require a whole lot of work on your part to try to keep up an image and maintain an image. And that's what we've all been doing, is trying to maintain an image that isn't actually real, but we've done it.
There was a lady that came to our house. She was real holy sanctified, and she came with one of our old friends. And I had gone on Amazon and ordered one of them gas fart machines. I still got it in there now. So I knew she was coming, and she said, praise the Lord, glory be to God. And she sat down on my sofa, so I had buried the microphone up under her pillow. And so I had to
because she's always so poised and so proper.
Yeah. And I had the remote in my pocket, and I was sitting across from her, and I imagined it would go, brrr. And she kept right on talking, like it wasn't nothing going on. And then I hit it a second time and went, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, don't demonstrate.
And she said, oh, I didn't do that. I said, now, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I said, you going around.
That totally broke that. Look, that totally tore down all of that. I got to be a certain kind of way. That tore all that up.
She said, I didn't do that. I said, you ought to be ashamed of yourself coming to people's houses farting on their furniture like that.
You made me think of something we heard yesterday that not about that machine, but how you remember the movie Indiana Jones, and I can't remember it was the Last Crusade or one of them, where he was looking for the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you remember he got into that room after he crossed that invisible bridge, and and I got a whole message out of that invisible bridge. You can't see where you're going till you see past where you're stepping.
Exactly.
That's what he was doing. So he crossed that invisible bridge, got over there into this room where it had been guarded by this sentinel, where all these different cups were kept. It was a whole room full of gold and silver cups, and they were looking for the Holy Grail, the one that Jesus drank out of. And the one that he found that was the one that Jesus drank out of was a little bitty cup made of wood. Little ugly cup, because they expected because he was God. They expected it to be something elaborate. And even the scriptures tell us he was not someone you would look upon and desire.
Exactly.
So Jesus was not flaunting himself, but he knew who he was.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's how our church services have become a place to flaunt your gift. And
unfortunately, that's true. Yeah,
it's been superficial, and so but the thing I've learned to be joyful in the simple things. Sometimes less is more, and so I realized that people that I love dearly, I'm being honest, I love dearly, I care for them or whatever. But it was in the midst of the pandemic, and we should retitle this "In the Midst of Crisis." But in the midst of the pandemic, I realized that I became their slaves. I were a slave to them because I kept trying to fulfill their perception of me.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? I found that's why I said I'm in a place now of so less stress, because I realized through almost my whole entire life, it was always about pleasing everyone else, where I never enjoyed me. I didn't realize how lost I was. And I want them to know that we could be on that platform preaching until Bishop back in the day, I follow that track. We would preach till we sweat out suits and everything, and still be lost. As a leader, it called whatever you want to say. And it was when everything quieted down, and I don't have to be to the church to prepare for this and seeking God for a word to give to the people and all this stuff. It was in the midst of all of this where I was able to be still. And watch this now. Not only know that he is God, but I had to be still and know who I am.
Exactly. Exactly. Because
Yep.
when you find out where you originated from, you find yourself, you find who you are. Because we are all the children of God. All of us, every last one. That's why he said he's the father of spirits.
Mm-hmm.
The father of spirits. So there is not one that God looks at that he doesn't consider his child. Not one. It doesn't have anything to do with me accepting Jesus Christ. None of that. He looks at every last one of us as spirits, as his child.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
more than that, if we take the leap, even more than that, we are just pieces of him broken off in all these different forms.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so thank you for being transparent. It's a lot of ministers who don't have the courage to do that. It takes a lot to be transparent. You come to a place where you really have valued your freedom more than your image.
Mm-hmm.
And I just pray that you will continue to have that same courage and to not back down and allow that courage to speak to other people. Because there are a whole lot of us who are still who are seeking freedom, and we want freedom for ourselves. We don't want just a lot of the bells and the whistles. We're not looking. Some of us are not looking for that. There are some of us who are very serious about our spiritual walk, very serious about our spiritual walk, and we want to live beyond just the frills and all of the I don't even know what to call it. All the stuff that we've been living in all these years. And so I just commend you for being vulnerable enough to be transparent in front of all the people. You will not suffer for it. I guarantee you that. There will be those who will love you even the more for it and have been waiting, because now you can relate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we sit ourselves on a pedestal trying to fulfill that image, and people are constantly trying to reach that same pedestal and they can't do it. You have now brought yourself to the place, down to the same level of your people. Jesus walked as a common man. He did not put himself on a pedestal. And so I commend you for doing that, for being transparent. It's a big step. It's a big step.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
And our time is up.
Yes.
We had such a good conversation today, and you didn't say anything today.
Not much.
But he's back here yawning a little bit because he's a little sleepy. What you gonna say anything while we're closing out?
There is a position that we are in that God is finally discovering that He is discovering and finding out more that He is us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beyond. It's gotten out of hand because it's not God being in us anymore. If you want to go into that vein and stay in that, it's okay. But I will say this: there is such a thing as the labor of grace and the grace of labor.
That's good.
One of them is you have some land that need to be tilled and work to grow vegetables. The land is already nourished with the benefits of the earth to produce after its own kind. If you leave it alone, somebody comes along and said, look, I'll work this for you. And when they do, they are laboring the grace of you. But if you tell them, no, I can finish it up, you are the grace of labor.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a place in this where there's two ways, I would say at least two ways. You can walk the walk of the Spirit and see the benefits of it, or you can apply it deliberately by principle and technique,
Mm-hmm.
and obtain the same benefits of the contract. So you can do the grace of labor and the labor of grace. You can go in the closet and pray, and the manifestation of the Spirit is yea and amen,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no restriction. Okay, here's what we're saying now. A lot of us are saying that if I don't live a certain way, that God is not going to be able to work through me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I found out in my grace of labor and the labor of grace that the ego part of us wants to have everything in line before it will allow us to walk out the contract. And that's
Yes.
not true.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The truth of us has always been God.
Yes.
And I'll put it to you like this. If you were standing, and you did, and you have, at the foot of the cross, and you look up there and you see Jesus on the cross, and all of a sudden Jesus would renege on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Most reactive egos would say, this man has lost his mind. But that one that has come into the sleeping world and has awakened, he would say, well, look, come on down. I'll take your place. I'll come up there. If there's some way I can get up there and let Jesus take a break.
Mm-hmm.
You are the manifestation to yourself, waking up in the sleeping world. You are your salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a strong statement.
The you that you're talking is the higher you.
The
You are
highest
your
part of you
salvation.
that's in this session now,
Mm-hmm.
that is looking through the screen at seemingly 2 people, 3 people, or 4. The highest part of you is the Savior. See, a lot of people are talking about God in them, and they don't know that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know that in that enough, you can go beyond that.
Beyond it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The going beyond it is willing to see that the greatest power that could work through you, here it comes now, is no words at all.
Mm-hmm.
When the priest got ready to go into the Holy of Holies for my investigation, there was no more conversation to God.
That's right.
There
was
was
absolute stillness.
no more conversation.
In
When
fact, in the Holy of Holies, there was absolutely no activity at all.
Nothing at all. No sound. It was the soundless sound was the voice of God. What it was used to build Solomon's temple.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon's temple was made. You know, I can take my hand and put it together like this, and it don't seem like you hear anything. But there's a sound that comes in when I put my hand together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this.
But there is a
There's
sound.
a sound.
Mm-hmm.
Can you catch the sound of my hand coming together? That's the key to the voice of God.
Wow. That's good, Pastor. That's good.
The
That's
voice
good.
of God is that sound that makes no sound. It's that voice that is no voice. It is that word that is no word. It is the practicality of Jesus finding himself in a place of stillness called the real us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for those words. And before you go, if you have the wherewithal, I'd like for you to bless Pastor Armstrong. I've got his cash up there if you would. And if you choose to get, if this message resonates with you and you have the wherewithal to bless him and Pastor Sari and myself. And I wanted to announce next week on Thursday when we come together, Pastor Norma will also be with us as usual, but I have invited a third guest, Oliver Blue, to come and be with us. And so he's going to have some input. Oliver has been very instrumental in our lives since the shutdown. He was the one who was instrumental in causing us to be on the live stream. He came every Sunday. He drove how many miles from where he lives? It's about 80 miles from where he lives.
Ooh, wow.
Sunday, he would drive to our house every Sunday to set us up. He would bring his monitor, his laptop, and everything we needed, and used his phone to help us become live on. That was way back when we first shut down. And he was the one who did it. He did that every Sunday until we got our own equipment. And then even after that, he would come just to make sure everything was good. So it's just been maybe a couple of months that he hasn't come every Sunday. So he did that from March of last year all the way up through this year.
No charge. No, penalty, no,
Awesome.
just help us out.
I honor he and his wife Yolanda, and he's going to be with us next Thursday as well. And he's a teacher of the Course in Miracles. He's a coach. So he's I think he'll be good. He'll be good for you. You'll enjoy him. And I'm looking forward to it. So next Thursday at 2:30. And Sunday, we're having our next joint service.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Hallelujah. So we'll have our joint service, and it'll be at 10:30. So spread the word. And we'll see you guys then. We love you so much. Until we see you again, you stay safe and stay sweet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.